Hey guys, Buffing Game Bad today bringing our video, and today for our Modern Warfare 3 weapon conversion video, we are converting the SVA 545 into the modernized version of the AN-94, the AN-23, or the Avtomat Nikonov model of 2023, which is supposed to be an AN-94. However, they've taken some liberties with this design here in Modern Warfare 3. So let's go ahead and break this thing down. We'll show the conversion for this and how it handles in-game. Backing out. Here is our final design for what I am dubbing the AN-23 or the Avtomat Nikonov model of 2023. Although it is supposed to be an AN-94. However, they've taken some liberties again with the design here. So backing out, we will go ahead and strip this thing down to base. So you're going to want the SVA 545. This is one of the very first, if not the first, assault rifle you unlock here, or you have at base. So the SVA 545, go ahead and select that. Now again, this is supposed to really be a more modernized AN-94, which is what we're going to go into assume here, and then we'll get into it. So for the muzzle, I'm going to go ahead and put a PBS-4 on this. This is a Russian suppressor for 545 by 39mm rounds. So we'll go ahead and select the monolithic suppressor for undetectable by radar, and it will help out with our recoil control slightly. Barrel attachment. You can go ahead and utilize a different barrel or a laser instead of this if you want. However, we're going to go ahead and do the long barrel here for the aiming stability, bullet velocity, and range, gun kick, and recoil. And you can see you're getting the most bullet velocity and range out of this compared to the other barrels, as well as the most recoil. So we'll go ahead and do the precision barrel. Now again, you could swap that out for a laser if you want. I think would be a good option. But again, the way we're using this, you really, I think, want to maximize damage at range is how I think this weapon is best served, as well as its real-world intent for the most part. So we'll go ahead. For the optic, you have the classic AN-94 optic from Modern Warfare 2019 here with the VX350 thermal. However, they changed it from more of an infrared to a thermal here in Modern Warfare 3. We are going to go ahead and select a different thermal optic here. If we just keep going, we're going to find this one here, the Corvus Ghost View is a really good thermal. It's a 4x magnification, small glint, but again, it allows really good target identification and really the aesthetics with the AN-23 or 94 look really good. So we'll go ahead and select that. Buttstock options. You can see here we have a Zeniko PT1 buttstock, I believe it is, if I'm remembering correctly, on this thing, which is just crazy because in no world would Kalashnikov use Zeniko parts for manufacturing. So this is a Zeniko PT1 buttstock. We're going to swap that out. You have obviously a few options here. You can go with a classic 100 series foldable stock. We're going to go with the old prototype boot stock for the actual AN-94 here. This is going to assist with gun kick control and recoil control. You can see sprint to fire, sprint speed, and movement speed are the cons. We'll go ahead and select that. Good looking stock. And then for the rear grip, you have typical options here. Magazines, you have a base 30, you have a 20, 45 round Bakelite mag, and a 60 round casket mag. Ammunitions are the typicals, and for the underbarrel attachment, we're going to go ahead and run a Chewik angled grip. Definitely not pronouncing that right, but this is I just did this mainly again for aesthetic purposes. You can go ahead and select something different, but aim and idle sway, aim walking speed, movement speed, and horizontal recoil control. The cons are slight vertical recoil increase, but again, very slight, and that's very easy to counter, especially how you want to use this weapon. So this is our final design for the camo. We're going to go ahead quickly and just go ahead and put a plumb on there for Modern Warfare 2. The unplumbed looks really clean on this. And this is our final design for the AN-93 or the Avtomat Nikonov model of 2023. Again, this is supposed to be, I believe, in-game here, their take on a more modernized version of the AN-94. What would the AN-94 look like today if it were brought back into production and reconceptualized to put into service? So this is really what I think this is supposed to be. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice there's a lot of differences here. You have the dovetail mount on the left-hand side, which you have the full-length Picatinny rail on top. So therefore, it's not needed for the dovetail mount. The iron sights on this are also not the AN-94 iron sights. You have more modernized iron sights on this at base. Like we talked about, the Zeniko PT1 buttstock would never be on a factory model Russian weapon, period. Zeniko's an aftermarket parts manufacturer, so they make different attachments and things like that for the weapons, nothing that would be coming on something out of the factory. Now, one thing you'll notice is we don't have a canted magazine here. On the real AN-94, the magazine is canted 45 degrees, I believe it is, to the right, and that's to make room for the internal workings of the weapon that allow for the 2-round hyperburst, which this weapon fires 2 rounds before the user feels recoil, which is supposed to maximize accuracy and deadliness of the weapon. Now, one thing you will notice, however, is if we look at the weapon from the rear, if I can get it lined up here, the buttstock is, however, slightly canted, which is interesting. Now, it's supposed to be a folding buttstock, but it is canted slightly, or at least off-center, which I thought was interesting, just something I noticed. Harder to tell from the front. And then you have the handguards, things like that are semi-resembling of an AN-94. Charging handle is obviously different. You have the AK style fire selections on the right hand side, AK style mag release, which is fine, but you have the select fire options from an AK on the side there, which is incorrect for an AN-94. Therefore, again, this is really why the pistol grip, all that, this is really why it's supposed to be more of a modernized AN-94. What would it look like if they brought this back today? So let's go ahead and look at it in the firing range here. So here is the inspect animation. Go ahead and do the inspect. Now, you really want to use this in the 2-round hyperburst, is where this thing is most accurate and effective, I feel. So we'll go ahead and use the long-range target for an example. I'm just going to control the recoil best I can and just let this rip. So again, you can see you get the 2-round hyperburst off the bat, and then the rate of fire goes down. In real life, it would be around 600 rounds per minute. They increased it here in the game. I think it's like 700 something. We'll take a look at it after this, but you can see the recoil there. It's going to get a little bouncy, right? So it really is difficult to utilize this thing in full auto, given the damage. What you want to do is semi-auto, which is the hyperburst option. So you're going to get 2 rounds. In real life, it would be around 1,800 rounds per minute in the 2-round hyperburst. Now, let's go ahead and just jump back into private matches, because even though if you're doing stuff, it still kicks you out and says your session time's out when you're in private matches doing things with the gunsmith. So go ahead, jump back into this, and we'll look at the 2-round hyperburst option here with this weapon. Now again, with this, you're going to have pretty much no recoil. And you can see the rate of fire is going to be faster than just holding the trigger down. So full auto, hold the trigger down. After that initial 2-round burst, the rate of fire will slow. You also have a non-reciprocating barrel there, which is incorrect for the real-life model. Now, if I hyperburst and speed fire it, you can see a much faster rate of fire, and the big part is it's accurate, right? I'm not gonna be controlling this at all, and you'll see I'm not adjusting for recoil at all there. It is right on center. Don't need to correct for recoil. And you can tap fire it super quick, and it's going to be deadly accurate. So that's our AN-23. Let's go ahead, let this thing just rip. Look at the recoil. Full 30 round, no adjusting. In full auto. So you can see it's going to go up and heavily to the left. Now let's control it with the burst. Or we'll control it with full auto first. So you can see decent, but again, over long range, that's going to be exacerbated pretty heavily. Go ahead and burst it now. So there's a difference right there. It's pretty much dead accurate, 0 recoil, very little bullet deviation there with the hyperburst. So you really, really need to be using this in the hyperburst option. And again, there's some cool designs that you can make with this. Like I said, you could swap out the barrel for a laser if you wanted. You could do something like the laser, and then for underbarrel options, you do have, take a look, Unfortunately, you don't have the GP. You have a newer version. So you have the GP30 here, and then for the dual charge, you have a new version of a launcher, which is, I thought was pretty interesting here. This is something that is only available on the SVA, and you can see you're going to get additional rails there. So the handguard changes with the underbarrel launcher, which I thought looked pretty cool. And that's going to be with both launchers on there and the shotguns. So you can see the handguard changes there with the addition of the grenade launchers and the underbarrel shotguns. Looks pretty good. So looking at the camouflages for this weapon, this Topo Muddy I think looks pretty cool. Honestly, it looks nice on this. Zombies, nothing super special, but then you have all the other type of camos there. Go ahead and now jump into the gameplay. And again, we're going to be using this on Afghan just to show off the Hyperburst, trying to get in kind of a larger open field environment where I can utilize the Hyperburst at range to show its maximum effectiveness. And again, there's very little recoil on this weapon, so utilizing it like this is really how you wanted to use it in Modern Warfare 2019 and original Warzone also, is I found the best luck in Hyperburst. Now you can also keep it in full auto and just tap fire it to utilize the 2-round burst feature, and you just got to time those bursts correctly, and then you'll have the ability to go full auto if you need to in a pinch. However, if you time it wrong, it's going to kind of mess up the recoil of the weapon. So in the 2-round burst, I feel is like the best option. Again, this is supposed to be, I believe, more so of a modernized AN-94. This is why I'm calling it the AN-23 or the Avtomat Nikonova model of 2023 instead of the Avtomat Nikonov model of 1994. So the real-life weapon, again, is supposed to be an AN-94 modernized. So the AN-94 is an assault rifle from Russia in service from 1994 through present. It was intended to replace the AK-74 series of weapons, and utilizing this 2-round burst hyperburst feature, the intent was to have the unique feature to delay felt recoil until after 2 shots have left the barrel, and then the user would feel the recoil. This would allow the first 2 shots to be right on target without the user feeling the recoil. So after those first 2 shots leave the barrel, then the recoil would be felt, and if you're continuing to fire the weapon within the full auto feature at that point, the weapon would operate as normal, and you'd have a 600 round rate of fire, rounds per minute, 600 rounds per minute after that initial 2-burst hyperburst feature. And then again, if you're utilizing it in the burst feature alone, the rate of fire would be around 1,800 rounds per minute is what it's claimed. And then again, full auto is going to reduced down to 600 after those first 2 initial shots. So it did see limited service. It was never formally adopted to replace the AK-74s, mainly because of the complexity of the weapon, the internal workings, and the cost of it. It was also deemed it had a lot of issues, I think, within testing purposes, within trials. And I know Larry Vickers did a video where he went over and shot this and the AEK 971, and when he was shooting the AN-94, it had a jam which put the weapon down for good. So they ended up breaking the weapon. They finally got it cleared, and they couldn't use it anymore. But he said that he fired this in the burst feature and the AEK 971 in the burst feature, and he liked the AEK better. So again, just kind of goes to show this was kind of a early design. If they brought this back today, it wouldn't look the same as it did back then. You have technologies 30 years later has obviously improved. You wouldn't have to probably have that canted magazine. The way the weapon internally works would be slightly different to achieve the same result, I feel, which is why I think this weapon looks different. Now, whether or not the developers thought of it that way, or they just tried to make something an amalgamation of weapons, I don't know, but that's what makes most sense to me. Now, the design period for this weapon was 1980 through 1994. The designer was Gennadiy Nikonov, hence the name, not AK like Avtomat Kalashnikov. It's AN, Avtomat Nikonov, for the designer of this weapon, which is Gennadiy Nikonov. So, manufacturer was Kalashnikov concern. Again, produced 1994 through 2006. Saw limited usage within Russian Special Forces in some of the wars within Chechnya, In 2022, it's also been seen since then in the invasion of Ukraine. You see photos popping up of the AN-94 there also. So the mass of this weapon is going to be 8.49 pounds, with the length overall being 37.1 inches. With the stock unfolded, with the stock fold, it's going to be 28.7 inches. Barrel length at base is going to be 15.9. However, here in game, we're using a slightly increased barrel length. The cartridge, again, is the 545 by 39 millimeter. Now, there was a prototype for the 762 by 39. However, that was only prototype. I don't think that was ever put into actual development, nor did it ever see service. It's a gas-operated weapon. Rate of fire with the burst feature is going to be 1,800 rounds per minute. And then within full automatic, it'll drop down to 600 rounds per minute. Muzzle velocity is going to be 900 meters per second, or 2,953 feet per second, with the effective firing range at 800 meters, or 870 yards. The feed system is going to be a 30, 45, and a 60-round quad-stack casket magazine for the AK-74s. It does take those magazines. And the feed system, again, it does take that 60-round casket. So anything that goes in the 545 AKs, 100 series, 74 series, all that, is compatible with the base AN-94, or in this case, the AN-23. And you have iron sights with the dovetail mount on the left-hand side of the weapon in real life, which would be used to mount weapons. Here, obviously, they've replaced it with the full-length Picatinny rail. So this is the AN-94 SVA 545 converted into the AN-23, or the Avtomat Nikonova model of 2023. Let me know your thoughts on this weapon down below. Again, I really wish the handguard was a little bit different for this weapon. I think it would look really, really cool with a more extended handguard on the weapon. I think the short handguard and just the look of it is a little odd. Again, it's really kind of looks like they didn't really know what to do with this weapon and just kind of pivoted last minute and decided to make it function like an AN-94, while they maybe had a different purpose of what they wanted this to be. I know there were rumors of an AK 101, I believe it was, which is the AKs that fire the NATO 5.56 by 45 millimeters. So could have been something like that, and they pivoted last minute. Not really sure. It's just strange that they didn't use the same model from Modern Warfare 2019 like they did here with the Tavor, or the Ram 7 here in Season 1. So I really do think this was intended to be a different weapon at base. You also don't have the sonic brake, which is that muzzle device that comes on the AN-94 in real life, which is crucial to allow it to utilize that 2-round burst function, the way it's propelling the gases in the reciprocating barrel of the weapon. So a little bit of a bummer that they didn't just bring over the same model. However, I do respect that they tried to, in my opinion, modernize this. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. Let me know what you think. All the links, all of that is in the description. I'll probably be streaming on Twitch after you guys see this video, so once it's live, I should be over on Twitch. So let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll try and get some Warzone wins with this eventually and see how it is. But again, this is one of those weapons I think it's more of a high-skill gun in some purposes because you need to utilize the hyperburst feature. I don't really think, outside of multiplayer, I don't think the full auto is really going to be viable. So we'll have to test it out and see. Let me know your thoughts down below. Till next time, Buffering Gaming with the Avtomat Nikonov model 2023. Buffering Gaming out.